Robert first saw Nneka when she was 16, and he himself was celebrating his coming of age a week later. Olivia, his sister, was friends with Nneka. He asked them both to his party and told Nneka how he felt. He wasn't turned down by the girl, and that marked the start of their relationship. After 5 years of their relationship, Robert felt it was time to propose to Nneka. She accepted without a flicker of doubt. Because Nneka was studying for her last degree and didn't want to combine two significant occasions, the wedding was postponed for a year. She will spend this summer resting and defending her graduation. The remainder of her time will be spent getting ready for the wedding. Time went by, and their wedding day drew near. The venue was booked, guest invitations were dispatched, and Nneka had her heart set on a voluminous white gown. "Have you decided on a spot for your bachelor party?" Nneka asked Robert. He confirmed the plan was a simple evening at a bar with friends, cheering on a soccer match. She rolled her eyes, but didn't say anything to him. Nneka then told him that she was unaware of her bachelorette party preparations and that her friend Mary had promised her a surprise. Mary contacted Nneka on the scheduled day to let her know that she would be picking her up in 2 hours. Nneka let out a happy noise and dashed off to prepare. It seemed as though she was more anticipating the bachelorette party than the actual wedding. Nneka's curiosity was piqued when her friend failed to respond to her inquiries on the location of the bachelorette party. Eventually, they arrived at the yacht club, and the bride couldn't help but let out an exuberant squeal of joy. They spent several hours sailing on the yacht, delighting in the beauty of the surrounding area and snapping photos. With the champagne flowing, Nneka was already rather inebriated. A young man of approximately 35 was their captain. He went by Tyler, with gorgeous muscles showing off beneath a form-fitting t-shirt and a body tanned from constant sun exposure. Nneka had been eyeing him the whole time they were swimming. Mary winked and whispered conspiratorially in Nneka's ear that they would have a fantastic adventure before the wedding, knowing that she had been admiring him the entire time. Before she knew it, Nneka was sitting next to the captain and started flirting with him. Initially hesitant, Tyler gradually warmed up to Nneka's suggestive cues, and soon they were locked in a kiss. Tyler casually slid his fingers under her blouse. The bride-to-be called Robert in a slurred voice, saying they had gone to her friend's house to spend the rest of the evening together. Bidding them good night, Robert stretched across his bed and quickly succumbed to sleep. Come morning, Robert stirred early. The unforgotten curtains had let the dawn sun creep in, disrupting his rest. Noticing Nneka's absence, he thought she must have fallen asleep at Mary's. Robert, still nestled in his bed, reached for his phone. He tapped to refresh his social media feed. Among the latest updates, he noticed photos and videos from the previous evening's festivities, shared by a friend of Nneka. Unable to resist, he tapped on the image to get a closer look. The display showcased a perfect scene. The beauty of the natural surroundings, the sun dipping below the water's horizon, and Nneka, brimming with joy, proclaiming her upcoming wedding to the world. In the following video, Robert initially discerned nothing but shadows. However, after adjusting his screen's brightness, he could finally see two silhouettes in the video, one male and one female. The woman, perched on a man's knees, seemingly the captain of the yacht, was locked in an embrace, their lips meeting in a fervent kiss. The man's hands were deftly attempting to slide her jeans off. The woman was wearing only her jeans and bra. It dawned on Robert with a sinking feeling of dread that the woman with the captain was his fiancée. He kept the video and watched it again and over until it was eventually removed. Apparently, Nneka's friend saw what she had shared last night on her drunken head and cleaned up the evidence. Sadly, it was already too late. Robert's initial impulse was to release his anger by breaking something. He contemplated immediately phoning Nneka to declare the wedding off. Instead, he stepped out onto the balcony for a cigarette. The early morning sun bathed the area, and birds chirped delightfully in the warmth. As Robert smoked, his mind was racing with ideas on what to do. He did not immediately think of taking revenge, but when he did, he knew exactly what he would do. He maintained a facade of ignorance regarding the incident and carried on demonstrating affection for his fiancée. With the wedding only a week away, preparations were progressing at full speed. The bride and the guests would never forget the surprise that Robert had planned for them. Yet, as he gazed at his new wife, a touch of sorrow tinged his expression. He had already established a goal for himself and was not going to stray from it. He understood this marriage would end tragically soon. During the evening, when everyone had gathered in the restaurant for contests and dances, Robert requested a microphone from the host in order to reveal his modest present to his wife. Beforehand, he had handed the host a flash drive containing a movie composed of their pictures. The projector was turned on, and everyone could see Robert's gift for Nika. Set against a backdrop of a romantic melody, the video unfolded their moments together. Robert's voice, resonant through the microphone, recounted the memories tied to Nika from the dawn of their acquaintance to the present day. His speech was touching, stirring a wave of emotion that left many with glistening eyes and others openly weeping, overwhelmed by sentiment. But then, the pivotal instance arrived, one that would not only conclude the video, but perhaps encapsulate their matrimonial journey and shared destiny. The very video from the yacht that Robert had downloaded appeared on the screen. A collective intake of breath rippled through the audience, and a conspicuous flush of crimson tainted Nika's complexion. She sprang from her seat and dashed out of the hall, leaving behind a stunning silence. Her friend, responsible for the revealing post, sat frozen, hands pressed against her mouth in shock. "Esteemed guests, I seek your understanding in these trying moments," Robert addressed the crowd. "Thank you for being a part of our celebration, but unfortunately, the festivities in our union end here." With that, he swiftly followed in the wake of his wife's exit. Outside, Nika awaited him, trembling, whether from the chill of the evening or from fury was unclear. She lunged at Robert, pummeling his chest with clenched hands. "You've ruined my wedding," she cried out, tears streaming down her face. "It was one mistake, and you've destroyed my life, humiliated me. How can I face all these people, my parents?" Her anguished cries echoed into the night. Robert looked at her and couldn't believe that this was all happening to him. He allowed Nika to pack and move out in a few days, but she completed it more quickly than that. Her mother wouldn't let her live with her, so she had to move in with Mary. After the humiliation she endured, Nika's friend stood by her and was shocked by how callous and heartless Robert had been to her. Nika met several men in her life after the divorce, but she was unfortunately unhappy with each of them. Years later, she would remember Robert and the love and respect he showed her before her betrayal. Robert's life turned out considerably better. He found a woman with whom he could build a strong family. Meanwhile, Nika faced struggles. Single with a child from her second marriage, she turned to alcohol. It led to job loss, and eventually, her mother had to step in to care for her child, giving Nika time to recover. Life's boomerang returned to Nika and broke her heart. Now for the next story. When Mark first got married, he was 49 years old. Kira, his wife, was 32 years old this past month. Mark had always dismissed the warnings from others that Kira was from a different generation and had different values, fearing that their age difference would be a barrier to their marriage. He sincerely did not understand what differences there could be between him and Kira, since he cherished every moment shared with her. The thought of having an attractive, younger wife waiting for him at home thrilled him. They met in a bar, where Mark was dining with his business associate, and Kira was there with her friends. Upon seeing the vibrant and spirited Kira, Mark didn't hesitate to ask her for a dance. He asked her to meet, which laid the foundation for their relationship. It started with timid flirtations, bouquets, and nocturnal strolls through the cityscape. Mark felt rejuvenated, brimming with vitality. Kira's vivacity was infectious. Her smile and touch made him feel as though he could scale peaks with ease. Kira was employed in the hiring division. She refused to depend on Mark, no matter how many times he tried to get her to quit her job. Mark had been watching his wife get ready for work throughout the morning, and her tanned figure was stunning. "We had interviews for the team yesterday," Kira stated, pulling up her jeans. "Someone should be starting work today." Mark was always enamored by the passion and enthusiasm with which his wife spoke of her profession. "How about we go out tonight?" He proposed. That sounds wonderful, Kira agreed, giving her husband a peck on the cheek before heading off to work. He met her that evening, and they went to a restaurant together. Mark was aware of the disapproving glances from others whenever they went out, but it only reinforced his pride in his wife's youthful allure. How did your day go? Did you hire the employee? He inquired. It was right then that their steaming hot dinner was served, the savory scent tantalizing their senses. Yes, we welcomed 2 new employees, Danny and Regina, she replied. They were enjoying their time together, the delectable cuisine, and the lovely live music as usual, and their discussion went as usual. Beneath the table, Mark was caressing his wife's knee as she gazed at him, a contented grin on her lips. Mark noticed a shift in his wife's behavior over the course of many months. She grew increasingly tender, warm, and considerate in her ways. Evenings found her more inclined to whip up a homemade meal instead of opting to dine out. He even jokingly asked her if she had a lover. It's as if you're atoning for something, he teased. After savoring a satisfying dinner, Mark sipped his tea contentedly. At his jest, his wife playfully rolled her eyes. Oh, Mark, stop it, she quipped. He approached his spouse and embraced her. They shared a tender kiss. Kira's phone was abuzz with a steady stream of messages. She discreetly angled the screen away from Mark, though she had never done that before. Upon his inquiry, she assured him it was just work demands, explaining the need for her constant availability. As Kira was staying late at work one evening, her spouse chose to fetch her. He dashed a swift message to her mobile, typing, "I'll be there soon." Mark sped off to gather Kira. Kira did not respond after reading the message. Mark was waiting for her downstairs, right outside their office door. At last, the doors opened, revealing Kira and a young man whom Mark, with his years of perspective, might consider barely more than a lad. They shared a quick embrace, parting with smiles on their faces. Mark became nervous. He gave a quick signal with his car horn and waited to hear from his wife. She turned around and waved, but Mark was already feeling uneasy. Who is he? Mark asked when his wife got into the car. A colleague. Remember Danny, the intern we just hired? Mark nodded. Seems like you two are getting along, Kira laughed. Hearing this, Mark felt a little more at ease. He took comfort in his wife's amusement over the young intern's age and decided not to worry. He pushed away the negative thoughts that had already given him a vivid mental image of infidelity. Mark's imagination was always vivid, but it was not in his favor today. Meanwhile, Kira's late nights at the office became a frequent occurrence. Mark couldn't always pick her up, but when he did, he would invariably see Kira and Danny leaving the office together. It bothered Mark, but he held back from mentioning it to his wife. A previous confrontation fueled by his doubts had once escalated into a significant scandal, resulting in Kira temporarily staying at a hotel for several days. Mark would rather keep his doubts to himself than risk another argument. One summer evening, as he often did, Mark arrived to pick up Kira, who was running late once again. He patiently waited in the car, but his wife didn't even read the texts he had sent her. Mark decided to go up to her office. He noticed that the light was on and started to worry as he climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. As it turned out, his worries were justified. When Mark entered the lobby on the 3rd level, his heart was racing in his chest. His wife's office had an open door, and it was quiet. Mark heard muffled sounds. He opened the door abruptly and saw his wife kneeling in front of the young man. It was obvious what was happening. The boy's pants were down, and his wife was sitting half undressed in front of him. Caught off guard, Danny quickly pulled up his pants, trying to recover from the unexpected interruption. Kira remained seated on the ground, her gaze lowered as she shielded herself with her hands. Mark crossed the room in one stride and grabbed Danny by the shoulders. The boy let out a whimper of fear. Mark raised his hand to strike, but then Danny burst into tears and Mark let him go. The young man ran out of the room, his footsteps echoing as he climbed the stairs. What happened, Kira? Mark asked, his voice trembling. You had everything. I don't know, Mark, Kira replied, tears streaming down her face. It was like a compulsion. I couldn't stop thinking about him. The woman then burst into tears, saying, Mark, I'm so sorry. The woman rushed to him and hugged him tightly, her arms around his neck. Mark held her close, sobbing from pain while Kira cried from embarrassment. They were both overwhelmed with emotions, wounded by betrayal. Kira peppered Mark's cheeks with kisses, murmuring apologies. Mark tried to forgive her, but he couldn't fully let go of the hurt. For the next 6 months, they stayed together, plagued by ongoing scandals. Every time he closed his eyes, the image of Tanny with his trousers down and Kira on her knees would haunt him. Tired of the torment, Mark finally asked Kira to leave and filed for divorce. In his younger days, Mark had dreams of owning a big dog, driving a fancy car, and going on a journey. Now, he realized it was time to make those dreams a reality. The wounds from his failed marriage were still fresh, and he had no intention of starting a new relationship anytime soon. After their split, Kira continued working at the same company for a while before moving to a different city. There, she entered into another marriage that ultimately ended in divorce, even after they had a child. She briefly reconnected with Danny, who had come to the new city for her, but their rekindled romance quickly fell apart. Kira came to the painful realization that she was alone, and there was a sense of fairness in that solitude. She had been unfaithful to a man who had given her his heart, and fate had decided that she no longer deserved such love. Thank you for listening to the story until the end. If you enjoyed it, please show your support by liking and subscribing to our channel. We would also love to hear your thoughts in the comments.